Good evening. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. We'll call the meeting to order. Looks like, do we have some ROTC guests to lead us in the pledge tonight?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Do that.
It's always great to see our ROTC. Thank you all for being here. You should introduce yourselves, and then you can ask us to join you.
Okay, hi, I'm Cadet Master Sergeant Rebecca Shadle.
I'm Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jacob Winter.
And I'm Michael Henriquez. I'm the Jefferson's group commander this year and next year. And will you guys please stand and join me for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Very much. Thank you.
It's always great to see our ROTC. I know you're very busy this time of year, and really appreciate all you do for the community, and wish you all a great summer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Solstice, good evening.
Good. How are you this evening?
Good.
I'm excited to let you know we do have a new business partner signing tonight. But before I get to the new business partner, I wanted to take a minute or two and just thank some of our veteran partners. We have been working on some scholarships for our students. We had 14 business partners donate to that fund, so I want to recognize those folks. I'd like to thank Alpha Best Education, Four State Real Estate, Walmart, Green Tree Realty, Potomac Farms Nursery, Fargo Jones Insurance, Hillside Child Care and Development Center, Ginza Japanese Steakhouse, Lido's Pizza, State Farm Insurance, Miss Tammy Serbaugh, WVU Medicine, Jefferson Security Bank, the Ladies Auxiliary of VFW, and Shenandoah Heating and Air. Because of their generosity, we're going to be able to present scholarships to 4 of our students this week, 2 at Washington, 2 at Jefferson. So just wanted to publicly thank those people.
Outstanding.
And we do have a new business partner tonight. It's going to be with Shepherdstown Elementary School, represented tonight by Mr. Scott Jacobson, the principal. Going to be signing Shepherdstown Fire Department, who's represented by the president of the fire department, Mr. Craig Simpson. So you guys have a seat up here, please.
Good evening, Mr. Simpson. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Simpson was telling me that Shepherdstown Fire Department is older than the state of West Virginia, which I thought was interesting.
That we are.
How, 225 years, I think you said?
Yep, a little over 225 years.
You don't look that old.
I'm not.
Well, tell us a little bit about your partnership with Shepherdstown. Of course, your partnership is with the entire community.
It is, and we try to be involved a lot with the community, but we have a pretty good relationship with the school. We help them with one of their major fundraisers, which is a bag bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it started out originally as a basket, but it's changed. And we do a lot of these different types of fundraising things with different organizations in return for help at some of our events.
Great.
Because we have a couple of different large events every year that we get help for, and the main one of those being we make apple butter.
I had some this morning.
So
Swear to God.
Good. If you need some more, let me know. But we do that, and that's one of our big fundraisers, and we use a lot of community help, and we could not do it without the community help. So we try to help people and in return get help for our events.
Good. Mr. Jacobson?
The Bag Bingo event is amazing. It's one of our biggest fundraisers, and we had been talking about a partnership for a while now. And we do other things together in a kind of an informal basis, but it seemed like a natural, because Denny Barron, who retired from Jefferson Security Bank is now the treasurer on the board. So
Yeah,
it just
never retires.
No. And it just seemed like a natural fit. And as much as they do for the community and help us out, it would be great to have a partnership and see if we can expand this relationship even more.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
again for all you do for the community. Appreciate making a little tighter relationship with the elementary school and joining us tonight. Don't count how many people are in the room.
I have a fire marshal on speed dial.
I guess last time we did the Shepherdstown Police Department. It's pretty well lined up there in Shepherdstown.
Pretty safe.
We'll ask you to come back another time and tell us about your junior fire program.
Of which I'm a graduate.
Oh, great.
Yep, we have a really good program, and we're always looking to expand it and get help, because that's going to replace us
That's right.
when we
Yeah.
get done. So, and that's to keep our volunteer organization strong. We need to do that. So that's another good reason to get into the
Yeah, that's right.
elementary school, to
Yeah,
get them
Get them interested.
interested early.
Yeah, good.
So,
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Superintendent, comments?
No, sir.
Approval of the minutes. We have minutes from our last regular board meeting. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Any questions, clarifications? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Citizens' comments. We had one sign up. Ms. Roper?
Good evening. During the past few months, I've had the opportunity to listen to students, staff, former employees in the community. They have shared ideas, concerns, hopes, and dreams for our school system. I have heard inspiring ways to reconnect our community, increase employee morale, and stimulate academic achievement. I'd like to share some of those ideas and concerns that I have heard repeatedly. Trusting that the leadership, regardless of the names, will embrace the ideas that have been shared. I think a lot of people feel that the only time that they have a voice is during the campaign season, and I hope that we can demonstrate that we want to give them a voice throughout the school term. Advisory boards to the Jefferson County Board of Education can be one way to give students, staff, and the community a continued voice. Many concerns about Jefferson High School have come up, mostly concerning Cougar Hour. The concern is that the same shooting that happened in Parkland, Florida, can happen at Jefferson High School with the way Cougar Hour is structured. I have heard concerns that hundreds of students do not eat a hot meal on a daily basis at Jefferson High School because of the structure of Cougar Hour. In the past, we used to feed students during the summer for at least 6 weeks. Students ages 18 and under took advantage of the summer feeding programs at different elementary schools. I hope we can reinstate that program. Former and retired employees have listed ideas that would entice them to return to Jefferson County schools. Our community is ready to re-engage with Jefferson County schools. Our trustee board has come up with ways to address our declining student enrollment and high teacher turnover within the county. Community people have expressed a need to hear and see those strategies. They have expressed a desire to champion for the success of our schools and to revitalize our educational excellence on every level. They know that the success of Jefferson County is anchored in the success of Jefferson County schools. So with that, I just want to thank you for your service and your leadership.
Thank you. Consent agenda.
No changes, sir.
No changes. Okay, do we have a motion to consider consent agenda? Second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Unfinished business?
None, sir.
None. New business?
Begin with Mr. Dingus.
Starting with new business, the first thing I have is fuel and lubricant going out to bid. These are not bids, we don't already have them, we're going out to get them. We bid the delivery of that material. We don't bid the price itself, we buy it off the secondary market. So it's a continually as we buy it off the secondary market. Right this moment, like for example, we're paying about $2.15 a gallon for diesel, and we're paying $2.15 a gallon. That's the secondary market number. So as that secondary market either moves up or down, our number changes. But we get the best. We get a much better deal than anybody else in West Virginia, and we get a real good delivery service, and that's what we bid out, is the delivery service. So we're just requesting to go back out to bid for 3 years. Well, 1 year with 2 years extra.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Questions? So what does what does this cost us roughly now?
Total. I don't have that for you, Scott, but I can get it for you.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the, all of our fuels would be somewhere near $1 million.
But this is just for the transportation piece?
No, this is for our fuels that we get. This is fuels also for the delivery of fuel oil, because we get fuel oil, we get propane.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
He didn't mean the
Yeah, I didn't mean-
transportation department.
I mean, it's just for the delivery
You are correct,
of-
it's just for the
Yeah,
delivery
yes.
of those materials.
Just for the delivery of those materials.
Okay.
I think the point is to be clear with the public that there's no mechanism for us to lock in gas prices while they are low. Many people would love to be able to do that, as would we, and there's no mechanism for doing that. The one thing we can control long-term is delivery costs, so we are attempting to exercise control over what we can and keep those costs as low as possible.
Great.
And their deliveries are like 7,000 gallons at a time with diesel, for example. Which sounds like a lot, but it's just a week's worth.
Wow. And that goes to the new fueling station?
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
My second, yours.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
My second bit of business is the bid, to approve the bid, and you all have a sheet there for 655 McGarry. We went out to bid at 655. It's a rubric. However, only has one person on the rubric because we only had one bidder. That one bidder was on time and was a good company. The company actually that has been renting it for the past 4 years. UFP, United Forest Products. And they came in at $2.4 million for the 60,000 square foot building, now attached to the bus garage.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we award this bid to UFP.
Great. Any questions? So this is so 4 years ago, we purchased this property, which included 2 buildings.
Correct.
And we purchased it for right around
under $3 million.
Right around $3 million. And we're selling one piece of it for 2.4.
Well, in actuality, you've rented
And
out
you've
half
rented
of
that.
it for $200,000 a year for 4 years. Now, in addition to the purchase of it, you spent $3 million for the building, and you will have made $3.2 million back.
Yeah.
And by selling only half of it, and you still have the bus garage, the fueling station, and the parking lot.
And some of the sort of classroom and community facilities there.
Yes, sir,
like
the staff
what we use
development room
today,
that's in there.
Staff development room, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we don't like to be in the business of owning land and buildings, but when you can
Yeah.
sell them like this,
It's a real good day for Jefferson County Schools.
yeah, it's a great market. You essentially have made your money back off of that building. You got the building essentially for free.
yeah, I feel better. I remember when it was in bankruptcy, and what was the chocolate company, and all that equipment in there.
Gelato.
Gelato.
Oh, yeah, gelato. I was like, what are we going to do with this? Okay. Good job.
And as you saw at our work exploration event today in that staff development room, that room is utilized
Yeah,
heavily.
yeah.
Heavily. It
It's great to
stays
see.
booked.
Yeah.
So it's served even many more purposes than we anticipated.
And, okay, well, this, obviously, this is a business that kind of moved back into the county when we bought this property, and they've done well, so.
They have. They started off renting only part of that space, and then they expanded to rent the entire thing. And they are they're great neighbors. They've been we've had very positive interactions with them, and don't anticipate any difficulty.
Okay.
We've had 4 years to take them for a test drive.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Ralph.
And then I have a bid awarding for the lease for farming. You all have a rubric in front of you that shows that everybody was very, very, very close. They had done such a good job, and it was a very, very close situation. And, at this point, we would have went with the high unless the board has some other option.
And this, again, is for,
This is for 1 year for the Strider property that we own,
that we recently
to
purchased.
155 acres.
That was in an agriculture lease, and we want to continue an
Right.
agriculture lease until such time as the community is ready for the next steps for the board.
It saves us a great deal. It saves us mowing. It makes us a little money, and it keeps up, drops the taxes. The taxes are lower on it if it's being farmed than if it's not.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I will recuse myself on this voting.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Cable. Okay, do we have a motion to consider this?
I would like to make a motion. These three companies were very close, and they all fully met the criteria that we asked them to meet, and I'd like that we would award this bid to lease the Strider property to High Horizons Farms.
Okay, so that's a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions?
They're the ones that had it before?
Yes, yep. I think for some period of time. Okay, and so Mr. Cable recuses himself, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ralph.
Evening.
Good evening.
How are we? I think you have in front of you the landscaping data rubric, whatever we're calling it. Same situation in a sense. When we got everything submitted, things became pretty close. We had 4 businesses bid, Cornerstone, Arnell, Seasonal, and U.S. Lawns. As you go through everything, you can tell that the numbers calculate to the bottom as being the same except for U.S. Lawns. And through the committee and conversation, the recommendation based upon strictly just a dollar figure was to go with Seasonal.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Questions?
Are any of these local companies?
Yes, 2 of them are.
Which one?
Cornerstone and Arnell are local. They're in Jefferson County, yes. That was talked about and considered. That's why I kind of presented it the way I did to you.
Well, and it's kind of quirky in that they all aren't for necessarily the same period of time.
They all are for the same period of time. It's strictly 18 months. I broke it out so that you can see the one for 1 year and one for, because that's all we asked for was 18 months to get it onto a schedule for, basic flow of always coming back in October at the end of the.
Okay, so it changes the period of time.
Changes the period of time.
When we're going
That's
to
the
start
only-
in the
Yes.
future.
And I think it may be helpful if you look at the per month pay for exactly that reason. We broke it down into what the month, because that's the basis that we pay it on as well, so that we hold everyone accountable to the contract, so that if suddenly, because it's work that's done, it's not like they deliver, things all up front and we pay for it in one fell swoop, so that if suddenly the grass wasn't being mowed or we were having difficulty with bedding or things, we can negotiate with them, and we have a clause in there that says, we give you notice, you have 10 business days to fix it. If you don't, we're out, we're not going to pay you unless you fix it. So we place everything on a monthly basis, and that helps you to see the comparison on it.
So all these companies are of size to be able to handle this large of pieces of land?
Yes. and
Because
no.
in the past, we've had an issue with them being a large enough company.
Everybody that I met with, all 4 of them, flat out said, we still have to hire people and we still have to get equipment. And the reason being is because they're not awarded something yet. They don't have that. They already know what they're already doing. So once they get that award, remember this starts July 1. They have that time frame. I mean, they'll have that.
July 1 this year?
What's that?
It starts July 1?
Sure starts July 1 of this year, yes.
It's not much time.
So where are Seasonal and U.S. Lawns from?
Seasonal is Berkeley County, and
Okay.
U.S. Lawns is also Berkeley County. They're based out of Inwood.
Who has it currently?
Currently, right now, it's JPM. And from all indications that I know, did not bid because at the time of the having the information, he literally didn't have employees, in a sense.
Down here in this one section, it said worked in the county / Jefferson County Board of Education, and Seasonal got a 5 in that area. Where did they work in the county?
So that was, it could have been probably broke out into 2 things. Worked in the county. Right now, they've been working in Shepherdstown. I'm not sure where, other than a couple residential properties. And they just took over, I believe it's Taco Bell. I could be wrong about that. Charlie would probably look at me and go, yeah, you're wrong, Keith. But I think it's Taco Bell, because they have a national contract with Taco Bell, Cracker Barrel, and Holiday Inn.
And they appear to be, when you break this out on a per month basis, they're significantly lower than everyone else.
Yeah, the difference, when you look.
So, and this is so we're paying anywhere from, what are we paying currently?
Currently, the total is like.
Can you give us a monthly?
Oh, monthly, I would be able to crank that up.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
3 what?
I think it's 312 right now. Was this year's contract that ends in June. what sits in my head.
Yeah, it's 26 a month.
Thank you.
From your standpoint, and obviously doing the overseeing of that, which one of these companies, since they're all ranking essentially the same, other than really $3,000 to $5,000 difference, would you say you were most comfortable with? In your gut, which one tells you? What I'm asking is, which one do you think will do the best job?
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For me, I mean, through the whole process and the amount of times that I met with each individual, the amount of times that each of them came with questions, if I had to rank that wholeheartedly, I would take R&L. And it's because of, he just came at it from that perspective in Augusto. I think out of the two that are there between R&L and seasonal, we all know, and I'm not touting anything, but we all know what R&L can do. You see it because he's prominent in this county with what he's done. Seasonal is somebody that's going to come in and be new. It's going to be just like I would say back when you had JPM, and seasonal's going to be one of those things that he's going to work his tail off because that's who he is. He's just that type of guy, type of business. Can I compare their work? Can I sit there and honestly say, hey, this one and this one? I said this to Ralph when we were talking about it. I said, you know what? We have like a month grace period. I'd love to bring them all in, give them different properties and say, hey, go to it. Let's pick. Okay, that's what I said. And it just, we didn't have that time. But we didn't have that time, and I would love to do that. It would, make their maybe job a little bit harder, but it would be cool to watch. But, comfortability, those are my two. I mean, I built great rapport with both people, and I trust both people very well, and I think either one is. So I sat at home, and I'm not speaking out of line because I did tell Charlie this. I've stayed up many nights just flipping a quarter saying, 1, check, 2, check, 3, because I just couldn't pick. I really couldn't. I took myself out of the mix and said, I'm not offering my insight. I wanted the committee to.
I'll make a motion, we award this to R&L.
Second.
Okay, any further questions? And R&L is Jefferson County.
Correct.
And obviously, when we can, we like to show a little home preference. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
Thank you, folks, for
Good to see you.
the situation.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Never gonna use when we start talking about budget.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
So, briefly, while she is setting up, I will speak to the Comprehensive Educational Facilities Plan and the deletion of that. As we had discussed previously, the intent was for us to put out bids to architects to assist us with the 10-year Comprehensive Educational Facilities Plan. I'm not sure, are you kicking something? However, as the SBA, the School Building Authority, has recently made some changes. They have appointed a new executive director, they have appointed a new director, and they have also notified the school systems that they intend to go in a different direction for 2018-19, and rather than providing funding to individual counties to create their own individual CEFPs based on their local needs, they are exploring hiring one firm to do these CEFPs for all of the counties in the state from Charleston. So we have conveyed our concerns with that approach. However, we reserve judgment. A plan has not been laid out yet for us. We were simply given that information, and given that they are the ones who release funding to help reimburse us for a good percentage of what an architectural and planning firm costs. We are sort of belaying that until they get out what their plan is. So depending on how long that takes us in terms of delaying our timeline, seems to be a theme here, then we may come back to the board with Plan B, a contingency.
Yeah.
Yes. So, thank you.
I am unsure about the technical difficulties. I know that it is up there, and I know that everybody has a copy, and everybody in. I don't know if it has anything.
That should
Well, everyone has a paper copy in front of them, and the audience can see those
Okay,
are up.
yeah.
So, you have both a paper copy and an electronic copy in front of you.
I was just seeing this.
Oh, and she's got it. Or he's got it. What was it? What was your magic, Mr. Block?
turn it off.
If you'd like to, you certainly can.
There he does.
Ms. Morone,
Yes.
would you mind if, oh, you got it, but
We did.
can we, if the board, if there's no objection, can we flip the order and let Ms. Fitzwater go real quick?
Absolutely.
If you don't mind.
Nope.
Thank you. Just so long as you don't need any technology.
Brought my own. This is item G. This is the continuation of the aid at Wright Denny until the end of this school year. This is a continuation from actually, the first request was on the February 12th meeting, is where we were going to go for 2 months. As I've noted in my admin content to you, we are working through the process with the parents, and it has just taken a little bit more time to do the transition from one program to another, from one school to another. We like to do it smoothly and carefully so that it is a success. So we would just like to continue it till the end of this year. We will be reassessing for the beginning of the year. I have no guarantees, but we'd rather take it in chunks.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Questions?
But the thought process is that there would be a transfer to another program at another school with the beginning of the new school year.
Yes, but we're not sure if it'll be full-time at that point, so we're hoping, only because we kind of ran out of time. February kind of took a hit. We lost weeks, we lost snow, and so the transition was a little slower than we wanted it to be, and it has to be, 1 day, 2 days, and then we end on June 1st, and I'm like...
So that's,
I'm hoping...
That's better for the student to do it
Yes,
this
it
way.
is. We are
Yeah.
looking out for the student. We want
Yeah.
it to be successful.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Ms. Morone, thanks again.
For those who don't know me, I'm Beth Marone. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the school system and have been for 12 years. Tonight we're here to talk about the fiscal year 19 proposed school budget. We have in a school system 4 different funds. Fund 11 is our general current operating fund. Fund 61 is our special revenue fund, which is where federal title programs, federal special education funds are residing. Our debt service fund, which is our current bond, and also our lease revenue bond for the renovation of our transportation facility. and Fund 51, which is our capital projects fund.
The table games and impact fees, are they in 51 or 61?
They're in 51.
Okay.
They are in Fund 51. They're restricted funds. Anything outside of Fund 11 is where restricted funds for specific purposes reside. Our Fund 61 proposed budget is almost 13 million. Our debt service is 3.3 million. And Fund 51 is 4 million.
And of that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Are you okay with questions now?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you all okay with questions now? Sometimes you're getting them. So that, Fund 61, 90% of that, 95% of that special ed?
No. Fund, probably only $1.5 million.
Okay.
For federal, this is only federal
Right,
funds.
right.
The majority of your special ed, which is probably about that much.
That much.
Is in our general fund.
Okay, that's why I'm confused.
I
Thank you.
wish it were the other way, Mr. Sutter.
Yeah.
And you
But-
make a great point in that when IDEA was passed,
Right.
there was a commitment to 40% federal funding.
And it's not.
I've never seen a
Never
place
seen
where
it.
they've gotten over 15 to 17%. Absolutely.
If I added the state funding in there, you might be at $2.5 million. You know, the state funding that they keep taking back.
Right, yeah.
So, with that, you can see at Fund 21, I gave you just a summary of what this budget will accommodate for our bond and our lease revenue bond for the bus garage and when those maturity dates are. Fund 51, our board designated this budget will draw that completely down. This was a challenging budget. It is a draft. We are still working towards cutting and trimming before the final in 2 weeks. We hope to make some significant strides, or at least to have a plan in place to make those strides. Table referendum, I will highlight again that we are projecting 1.7 million in collections. We are expending almost 2.2 million. So you will see in this budget, and one of the good things we did with table referendum is that we collected for a full year before we started expending those. So at this point, we can probably accommodate 3 or 4 more years without making any changes. However, when we meet on Thursday, what you'll see is us reduce those gradually over the next 5 years to bring that to about 1.6. And what that will do is give us a comfort zone for the collections and possibly another small revenue source for some different capital expenditures within the system after that. Impact fees, I mean, if there's a highlight to this budget, impact fees is a highlight. We just bought $3 million worth of land that will probably take us into the future. I know it will take me into my retirement, and possibly we will not need any more land for a long, long time. And even with that purchase, we are projecting at the end of the fiscal year 19 budget, $3.4 million. Now, that makes me happy. It would be double that had the impact fee not been cut, but that's still a nice place to be when you just bought land and you're getting ready to plan for building. General fund this year will be at 1.1 million. Excess levy budget trend data. So we know that with the economic decline in assessed values, the school system took a significant hit of about 5.5 million and a 26% decline in our excess levy funds, which our voters approve. You can see that we're making strides towards reducing that budget decline. And then we also compare that in the actuals, which we did with the levy presentation last month. Given the fact that our assessed values continue to grow, that is helpful in helping us close that budget revenue for the excess levy, and it will continue to help us plan for how we will offset some of the other revenue table referendum declines.
what was the first year of the last, looking back at that, what was of the current levy? The first year was 16?
Yeah, the ones that are
19,
pink.
the one that's in pink.
Yeah, the
Thank
ones
you.
that are in pink are actually when our levy went into effect, yeah. And this current one is for 5 years. This is our fund balance, and I know that in the end of September when we did the fiscal year 17 closeout, I was very pleased with the 4.2 million carryover, which was very helpful at this time in our fiscal position. Of that, about half of it went to the board designated funds and half of it was committed for other things. Like we committed probably about $650 for 18's budget, and then about $1.5 million. I think we had about $500,000 in new positions, $500,000 in special ed, and some other little projects that we had initiatives for at the end of that year. Budget baseline. So don't have a heart attack, but in 3 years ago they added unfunded retirement, which is a $9.6 million line item. And so this is the first year that I've added that increase. I did add it to 18 and 19 for comparison purposes. So overall our expenditures are going up about $3.5 million. And our revenue, as you can see, we had to increase what we need from our prior year carryover from the previous year, and also our board designated for this first draft run for revenue. I'm going to go into it a little bit more detail as we move forward. So our goal would be that our operating expenses and revenue would equal, and that the sources to balance would be zero. And I think that we'll probably see that over the next 3 to 5 years with what we're working on. Revenue. Not too much change in our revenue. You can see that our taxes didn't really increase by $1.3 million. I pulled the 408 funding out, which comes from our tax money. So if you net those two together, we had an increase of about $700,000. Approximately $400,000 is from our excess levy, which is true increase in revenue to the school system. The regular levy is an inverse relationship between state aid. Miscellaneous is primarily from interest rates. I think you'll see that grow. I think it will probably grow more than the 16. It's a conservative projection, but I'm not exactly sure, so I left it pretty conservative. State aid looks like they kicked in a lot. That's primarily for our pay raise. And when we get to the expense side, we'll break down that a pay raise is a good thing in a school system. With an excess levy that's already a little behind, it actually steps us back a little bit because we have to fund that pay raise for out of the formula employees, and we have to fund extended contracts on the professional side.
And you're saying that'll come out of any excess levy?
It will.
Any increase?
It will come out of the excess levy that we're still trying to catch up on.
Right. It would be good to at least get our arms around roughly what that amount is.
I know it. Yeah, I do. It's getting there.
Okay.
And that also then includes, because they're not funding retirement.
Yeah, it does. It does. And as soon as we get to the expense side, I can give you those numbers if you want them early. Yeah. I mean, when you look at what this budget accommodates, there's very little change besides what we did for the pay raise. And that's salaries and benefits. The non-salary items are being cut by $500,000 to help fund some of that pay raise. You can see our health insurance and our retirement, very minimal increases and decreases, typical of a school system who is losing retired employees in a higher retirement plan and bringing on the new ones. Our 408 went down, and you can see that our non-recurring revenue sources have increased in order to help us balance the projected fiscal year 19 budget. staffing overview. Although our students didn't grow as much as we like to, and we're looking at that, we are projecting at 19.9 increases in positions. Some of those are board approved, and some of those are new positions. Mr. Osborne, I can tell you that all of the service positions are special education, and it would be a position higher, but we had a decrease in regular ed that we decreased a service position and moved it to a professional position. So those are all special education. On your professional numbers, the special revenue, the three positions increase is shifting from the general fund to our special revenue of position and a half, and we are also adding.
What would that be?
That would be, say we were paying an interventionist out of the general fund, but it's something that Title I funds can, within their purview, accommodate that for that school. And so we're able to utilize those and free up some general funds that have, because those title funds have so many restrictions on them that where we can use them to run our businesses, we're better off because we have more flexibility with the general fund.
One of the things that we've done in order to assist us with the next 5 years in trying to close that revenue gap is shifting those. So we did two things. One, we're looking at the collaboration in the most optimum way, which means shifting some of those funds, but not hurting those programs because we froze them. So basically we said, here's the programs you have in your fund. If you have an increase, that increase will help us offset those general fund salaries if possible. And also the flexibility is factoring into that. So the flexibility that's freed up, we're going to start looking at that for collaboration too. The new positions, I think primarily, this is amazing. I think Mr. Blanca, regular ed, we cut about 7 positions. Special ed, we added about 7 positions. Now, one of the special ed positions was a shift from contracted, but basically, there's a lot more work that goes into just having those 4 increases. We did add a professional position in the superintendent's office. We added a coordinator at transportation, which I believe is not filled at this point, but it's built into this budget. We will have a PIO, a public information officer, although it's increasing here, it's coming from contracted services, so no increase in the expense. There's one other, and I can't think of it right now. Any questions on staffing? This is not final. I think we may be looking at it and trying to pare it down some, but it is a pretty good draft.
Some idea of how many professionals and how many service were over the formula? Yeah, and you don't have to do that tonight.
90 service and 23 and a half professional, which would be what our comps were based on, which are truly our certified list from last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Which means it wouldn't include any of the new positions we hired this year. Okay. So here it is. This is the page that lists your salaries and your non-salaries, and we break it out like that. It's just it's easier for clarity. So if you look at it at a high level, you can see we're increasing by $3.7 million on salary and benefits, and we are decreasing by $500,000 on non-salary. And let me break those numbers down for you because I know you want them. So on contracted salary, this would just be every professional and every service position that we have on a contract. We have a total of $3.3 million overall increase. $2.2 million is associated to our pay increase, and of that $2.2 million, the state kicked in $1.5, meaning that Jefferson County's responsibility for the pay increase will be $700,000 or close, between $600,000 and $700,000, and that's without benefits. The other $1 million, you have a step increase which is probably about $500,000, maybe $400,000 to $500,000 annually, which would mean that basically a professional every year on an annual basis receives an additional $550, and service fluctuate, but roughly they're about $320 for a step increase.
And does that 3.3, does the 49 million proposed also reflect the proposed new FTEs?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. And about 700,000 are for the new FTEs. And that would be board approved this year, plus any new positions that are coming forward. Go down the line, you can see most of the rest of your salaries are a factor of the pay increase, lower than normal because we're moving budget to actual as close as possible, with a couple exceptions. Your salary supplemental, I saw some increases trending to actual, and I'll remind you that 3 years ago we did a significant cut in supplemental pay and overtime when we did the reorganization for transportation. I think we ended up cutting, I want to say $350,000. Oh, it was over $250,000, and that overtime has trended up slightly, so that's part of that increase. And then we looked at how we were doing the supplement to teachers who have over our pupil-teacher ratio, and that are teachers who, in the elementary grades, if they have greater than 3 in kindergarten and then 3 in 1st through 5th or 1st through 6th, they get an additional supplement from the state. So that is, from that and the way that we are redesigning that, that's going to be a slight increase in the cost. Substitute cost in this draft, just trending up slightly. I don't know if there's anything tied back to that. We have a meeting on Thursday that we're going to discuss what we're seeing in a little bit more detail. Other than that, employer benefits and retirement are just a function of the pay raise too, because they're part of the salary. Non-salary, you can see the decreases are $500,000. I think that this year we have come fairly close to our general fund being budgeted to our actual expenditures, as close as our comfort level can get. Some of the changes, the more significant changes in the first line item, we had Small Scholars, which was one of our pre-K collaborations, went out of business. And that is also shifting some of our contracted, for example, the expense to pay for that PIO position is being decreased in this line item to cover the cost of that. And of course, I think we had a couple special ed positions shift from that contracted line item. Big one, other services. Probably not going to have to guess on that. It is out of state instruction for special ed. That's the primary source for that increase. That also includes about a $65,000 decrease in phone and internet savings, I think, from the last bid. So that's a concern and a significant increase for the students that we're sending in that way. Also, a small increase in our liability insurance, which is something we'll talk about on Thursday too. I'm not sure we have enough to accommodate some of the things that may be the criteria for increasing that going forward. Supplies, primarily that's where you'll see your diesel, your utility cost, and also your instructional resources is the primary increase there. Probably about 400,000 instructional resources, which I can't remember what the adoption is.
Math adoption.
Okay, math adoption. And that has grown to not just be a textbook line item, but you will see also professional development and hardware, software in that line item. One of the things we might look at collaborating for some our special revenue funds. The decrease in other, last year in an effort to help our managers feel more confident about budgeting their budgets to actual, so we had our actual expenditures, we cut their budgets, we never cut their actuals. We did a reserve at JLT that if you needed to come and ask, we had about $1 million of a reserve. And this year, in order to help the budget balance, we reduced that reserve and left our departments at the level that they were. So they're doing pretty good. We've had a lot of conversation starting in April for their comfort zone. And other than that, the 408, which we put at the bottom because we never know what that's going to be. Last year we had 800,000. This year we have barely 3. And that is, at a high level, your draft budget. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Marone. Questions? This is just a presentation,
This
right?
presentation, the final will be at the next board meeting, then it will go, you will have to approve the final budget. We'll have a public hearing.
At the process for a moment. Next board meeting,
May 21st.
Is that when we also have the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
6:45.
That's what
yes.
I was confused about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there
Thank
you will adopt pending state approval, the draft budget.
So, questions?
I have a question on page 9, the revenue budget, under miscellaneous. Now that, I assume that that's where the rental fee for UFP went. Now that we're not going to have that rental fee, does that number need to be decreased by 200,000?
It does. We've included, so by 125, because we will increase it by the
Increase with
24,
agricultural
yes.
lease, but,
Yes.
I mean,
that
it's
is-
still in the wrong direction.
Well,
Yes.
and I will also point out that we paid business tax on that portion of the building because we leased it out. So the 200 of that, it was probably 20, I think it was 24, 25 a year in taxes
You're
as
right.
well that we paid, that we also won't have now.
Yeah.
Speaking
That
of-
is part of our Thursday discussion. That and how we're going to accommodate that, which is much easier easier than the actual table referendum.
Speaking of which, and we should have discussed this earlier, but when do we close on that property, roughly?
Again, now that you have accepted that bid, we'll go into negotiation with them. I would imagine they have, when they were in communication about their bid, they sold a property in Florida to have the funding to purchase this, and I believe June 30th is their deadline to dispense with it within the fiscal years for tax purposes. So
Good.
they would like, and it's a
So-
cash-only deal, so they would like to move quickly. So
Good.
cash-only, when you're talking about $2.4 million, works for us.
I was going to do a cartwheel, but it worked best. That's a pretty good deal.
It is, we actually, and just, we went to the Economic Development Authority and gave them the square footage, the location, and asked them to do a comp for us of the warehouse space. And the highest price, this is equal to the highest price per square foot for warehousing that they were able to find in the state of West Virginia. So we are getting a heck of a deal in terms of money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good, we need it.
We did. It came at a very good time, that is for sure. And to buy a piece of property and turn around and buy it low like that and sell it, doesn't always come around. I mean, you don't usually buy them in foreclosures, you can't find them too often anymore, and especially not in the school system, but it was definitely, that
They
was
did their
pretty
homework
good.
before they made the bid.
That's right.
We did.
Other questions?
I just have a statement that I think, I mean, I know I've said this before, but we have got to figure out how we can get a handle on special education. And I know you know that, Dr. Gibson, and we are gonna continue to get hit harder and harder with this opioid epidemic, and the children are coming. I mean, and they're gonna have massive significant needs.
Well,
And-
They're here.
I know.
They're not coming, they're
Right,
here. And our staff are very vocal, as they should be, in advocating for their students. And one of the things that we struggle with, and we've actually approached the state about this, there's just been other distractions, is the possibility of us creating a regional center. So, right now, trust me, Berkeley has the same, we spend $2 million a year on it, he spends $5 million. And he'll tell you the same thing. In the smaller systems, when Mineral gets an IEP for someone and they require residential treatment and it costs them $125,000 a year, plus an extra $150 a day for ABA services, plus the SLP service. It bankrupts them. It just breaks them.
It really kills them.
It does, and all of us. And it's
starting to kill us.
It is. And we're doing that. And again, we exist to do this, and we recognize that. However, it's unrealistic. Unlike other businesses, we don't control our revenue sources.
That's right.
And we are trying to take that bull by the horns with, I met with all of the other regional superintendents on Friday, and we are in the process of looking at virtual school vendors to try to pull some of these homeschool students back in to get the per pupil revenue off of them. Because right now, we are getting students who cost us more than the state gives them to educate them every day. And that imbalance it's on the backs of our local citizens, and it is breaking us.
Yeah.
And we have to find a way to balance out that equation without taking anything from these high needs kids. I recognize their needs, but it is a significant dilemma. And if we can't find some way to collaboratively drive the cost down, it will continue to be a significant drain on our ability to do other programming, other things for folks.
I think all the counties need to get together and get with the legislature, because they either don't understand or they don't want to understand what our finances are, and they don't really give a crap.
There's just really nothing I can say to that, Mr. Gable.
Pardon?
There's nothing I can say to that, Mr. Gable.
It's probably one of your highest challenges right now, and that is if special ed needs continue in the way that they do, you have at least some opportunity for raising your revenue, but what will foresee in the future is having to offset those increases by regular ed or other programs, and that's a challenge that, you've got a good superintendent and a good leadership team discussing it, but it's a hard challenge for a Board of Education. And remembering that we'll need to be providing one-to-one counseling for every single staff member.
Yeah.
Because that just, that's you don't get that training when you're going to get your teacher certification. It's just overwhelming. And it's every day, and then you've got to go home and you have to somehow try to function and trying to educate children that have severe needs that you don't even understand in yourselves. And so, that's another piece that we're going to have to add into there and figure out how to massively increase as well.
Other questions on the budget presentation? Ms. Marone, I have one on the budget baseline on page 8. Always am interested in the trend data. And if you look at and I realize this is adopted budget versus actual, but
Well, these are all budgets, but these are the ones that have been adopted, and then 19 is just projected.
big spike in expenses from 17 to 18.
Right, and that is because 9.6 million of that, for comparison purposes, up until 17, we did not have to book that unfunded retirement.
You told us that. That's
Yeah,
right.
so if you take the 9.6 out, and what I did is I went back and added it in 18 and 19. So going forward, you'll know that truly is our budget and that's what gets published. But in the past, when they did that transition, I left it out because I was trying to figure out the best way for you to actually have the comparison. So if you back that out of those numbers, it's most of your spikes are honestly in a school system. If you back that out and going forward, if you see a spike, typically that's the year that you got a pay increase.
Yeah.
Just as a general rule of thumb.
That's okay, we'll take that expense.
Yes, we will. We will.
We'll figure it out.
But they are still not expecting us to pay this, right?
That 9 million?
They have a funding source for it, but we're required to book it on our, yeah, that is correct. The unfunded retirement, yes, that's correct. We are not
Makes
paying.
about as much sense as
We haven't
that.
paid it yet.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it?
We fought them, we filed a lawsuit. Still on our books, it really probably shouldn't be since they're funding it, but we're not paying it.
Well, thank you very much. Do we anticipate an executive session?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, so any other business for the board? Ms. Harder? No? Okay. Any comments, colleagues? Oh, it sure was. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
Really
To have
impressed
an
with,
opportunity.
what those teachers or the staff are doing with those students.
And the businesses.
And the
Schools,
businesses, yeah. Yeah, that was great to see. Thanks for including us, that was, yep. So, anything else? Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.